Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Weekly, brought to you by GeneralsJoes Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostik80. For today's episode, I'm joined by the awesome Justin Generals Joes Bell. In this regular video series, we round up all the week's news in the world of G.I. Joe. Full Force Weekly. Right, cool, we're in. Lots of news to discuss, mate. Again, kicked our ass at the back end of the week, as it always does. I'm messaging you going,
never fails.
Yeah, it's gonna be like quite a week, like, you know, quite a lean one, I think. And then you're like, don't say that because you know what's going to happen. And lo and behold, tons of news stories break, and I'm like, oh, for goodness sake. I was kind of like, you know, we can probably get this done in half an hour, and then I'm like, no, it's going to be a biggie. So let's get stuck in. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that's the way this stuff goes. It's kind of a double-edged sword, and that's when I was updating kind of General's Joes a little bit more regularly, it was always a double-edged sword like that. You were excited for the news, but then at the same time, like, oh my God, it's going to be so much work. But
so much work. Why does it have to be work? In any case, let's get on to the first bit of work, which is in Minimates news. New Minimates art has been revealed for the upcoming figures that also features Duke and Roadblock. The art by Barry Bradfield was used in a blog post promoting Diamond Select Toys' new releases and slipped under our radar on Friday of last week. The art seems to be homaging the cover of G.I. Joe Real American Hero issue 1, with the characters all jumping off the page, backed up by a tank, with Cobra Commander looming in the background. It's clear that DST has more characters up their sleeve based on the image, and I would expect more figure reveals very soon after this first box set hits stores. Also, BBTS have them up for pre-order, so check the link in the description if you want in. Justin, cool art this, isn't it? I mean, are you excited to see more from the actual packaging?
Yeah, I think I really like what they're going for here. I mean, it's very much, like you said, a lot like the Real American Hero #1. They certainly took that inspiration from it. You know, obviously more modern characters, a lot of the familiar characters, you know, Snake Eyes, Duke, Roadblock, Scarlet, the characters we all know and love. But they've done a really good job kind of portraying that aesthetic. I'm really digging it. It's pretty cool.
So it looks like this is going to be kind of like a generic art piece for use on, you know, like maybe the box set or something. Funny enough, like Duke and Roadblock aren't in that box set, so maybe it's for a comic. I don't know. Maybe there's something else that this art is going to be used for, but it's really cute to see. Obviously, we've got Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, and Scarlet in there. Storm Shadow was the other one from the box set. So we may even see new, different artwork, maybe individual stuff, because they are going to be individually carded. So do you expect like a kind of G1 vintage-inspired kind of card art recreation?
It certainly seems like that's what they're going for. I mean, the figures are you know, the Minimates themselves are very G1. Well, Snake Eyes is more... I mean, he's obviously vintage, but he's 85, not 82. But yeah, so they're clearly going for that old school aesthetic. So I would be very surprised if they didn't do some sort of vintage homage in the packaging art. Seems almost certain.
I'm a bit sad Timber's not involved again. He's always getting the raw end of the deal, the poor pupper.
I don't know. Has Minimates done animals? I don't know if they've done animals.
I don't know if they have. We'll have to... I'd have to do more research, and honestly, there's been so much work for this episode, I can't be bothered. Anyway, you can find the DST or the Diamond Select Toys blog and links to the BBTS pre-order as well. I think it's slightly more than in previews, because this is a previews exclusive. I think it's about $29.99 for the BBTS pre-order. But yeah, you can check that out if you want to, guys. And we'll have more info on Minimates as we get it. But anyway, moving on then, and in comics news... G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero issues number 49 and 50 are getting reprinted for a special WonderCon at Home 2021 exclusive one-shot from IDW called Serpentor Uncoiled. The issue is actually already up for sale. It went up on the 25th of March at 1 PM Eastern, and it is available for $15. The issue has brand new exclusive cover art by Eric Canete and will be limited to 2 per customer. This just makes me want a new Serpentor spin-off arc in the current run, but it's a fun exclusive in any case. Justin, will you be picking this up by chance?
I might have to. Those 2 issues are often overlooked by the G.I. Joe community as being sort of really fun, really great examples of kind of Larry Hama at his best. I mean, I know Serpentor kind of came out of nowhere, at least in my mind. I remember reading issue number 48, I think it was, with Zartan and Gung Ho, and seeing a little caption in the end of it saying, "Oh, next issue is Serpentor." Me going, I don't even know who that is. Who is Serpentor? I mean, that's something new and interesting. And then, the whole cloning process, and then him leading the charge on the Battle of Springfield, and just very, very cool 2-issue arc that I think makes for a really good self-contained story. I mean, it was really Cobra actually won the battle, and G.I. Joe was sort of beaten back and revealed or exposed as a threat to democracy instead of what they really were. It was kind of the first time we saw the tables being turned a little bit with G.I. Joe having to go underground, and that was really cool sort of twist to the story back then. So I would love to see some new Serpentor stories. I think these 2 issues they chose were really good examples of kind of what made Serpentor so great, and I think those 2 issues of the comic really cemented him as being a cool character in my mind, much more than the Sunbow cartoon ever did. Just some of those images of him, like no shirt on, just the cape and his like little silver suspenders, leading the charge. Like one point he gets shot by G.I. Joe and just kind of cauterizes the wound with his knife in the fire and just stands back up and leads the charge again. It was just as a younger, I don't remember how old I was when those issues came out, but I just remembered really being amped up and thinking Serpentor was actually a really cool character.
I think you'd have been about 42, 43 at the time, right?
Yeah. And I was like, here, Jen, here. And I'm going to my wife, look at this cool comic. And she was like, yeah, whatever, get out of my face.
No, I'm only kidding. Justin would have been only very, very young at the time. I love the cover as well. I've got to admit, I think that as an exclusive, it's beautifully done. Like a really, I don't know, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's Serpentor. Like looking for like the God angle, like looking from below, looking up. Yeah. All of the kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like fire that's kind of like the like elements of like ash and stuff floating around and everything. It's just really, really cool. Beautifully done, beautifully coloured as well. It's a cracking cover. So yeah, that's a nice one. Definitely. For WonderCon. Nice one. I might pick that one up myself. Again, link is in the description if you guys do want to jump on that. And I think, for even though like $15, it's quite a lot for it's a double issue. Don't forget, it's a reprint, and it is exclusive, and the cover's gorgeous. So I think it's worth that, honestly. Check that one out. And kind of staying in comics. Well, it is staying in comics because that's exactly what we're talking about next. IDW Publishing dropped their June solicitations, including 2 covers by Andrew Griffith and Freddie Williams II for A Real American Hero issue number 284, and a special reprint of the second G.I. Joe yearbook with a fun October Guard-centric cover by Tim Latty, famous for his work on the Ghostbusters comics. A Real American Hero number 284 will continue the new arc that introduces a new Joe called Sherlock. Her arc hasn't started yet, as we still have a few more untold tales to get into first, but what was very cool about Freddie Williams' II cover was the addition of Sightline tucked away in the background. Considering the connections to the character in the late Gary Goggles' head, we thought it would be worth discussing this inclusion. First off, how do you feel seeing Sightline included in the comics again, Justin?
Oh, it's great. I think it's really the perfect homage to Gary, and it's interesting. It looks like the design aesthetic they chose is kind of the O-ring figure that was produced by Joe Declassified rather than the 50th anniversary more modern figure, which is really awesome. It's kind of cool seeing a concept sort of generated by the fandom being adopted into official continuity. So I'm excited. I'm really glad they thought to get him included, and I'm going to eagerly acquire this issue so I can see kind of how he's used inside the pages as well.
Yeah, because the last time we saw Sightline, I think, was during the Dr. Venom story, where there was like a robot Dr. Venom. It'll be interesting to see if he's utilised again and how he's utilised again. I think also last time he got a bionic leg as well. I think that was another addition to the storyline that I think Dr. Mindbender had kind of helped, like almost to say thanks to the Joes for saving his life, had kind of sent them the kind of schematics for this kind of new updated superhuman leg edition. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with that with Sightline. But yeah, it's really nice, and like you say, that the whole the almost like the reference looks like it's from the vintage figure that was handed out by Joe Declassified, not sold, but handed out.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the cool thing. Yeah, it's totally free.
Was that the last Joe Con?
I think so. They may have done it. I don't know if they started it at the last Joe Con or if it was before then. I think they were doing it at the last Joe Con, but I'm trying to remember if they actually started it before then or if that was.
It might. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I do remember it being done, and I remember their booth was next to Roma Collectibles at the time, and I remember kind of going over there and just being like, "Oh my god, I need this figure so bad! It's so amazing that the guys were doing that." So like, and also I think, was there a file card that went with it? I can't remember now off the top of my head. There wasn't there?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of really stoked for that on the cover. Great to see Sightline being used again, and I'm all for like new characters anyway, so it's really nice that we've got this like really strong connection to a character. Like it feels like the fandom already has the connection to this character before they've even done much in the issues, which is another odd but really kind of like, I don't know, just fitting, isn't it? Really for Gary.
Yeah. It is. There's already an attachment there, which is great.
In any case, that is more again like that's the last of the comics news today. I think as I scroll through just to make sure. Yes, that's the end of the comics news today. Let's move into guess what, guys? More classified artwork news. '80s tees have done it again. They snuck out a few more new pieces of classified art on their tees, including Regal Cobra Commander and that Storm Shadow design we haven't seen as a figure yet. Links in the description as always for the tees. Justin, thoughts on these new pieces? Let's have a look at Regal Cobra Commander first. And that's obviously same design, but like a definitely new piece of art there, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's cool. I mean, the artists they've got working on the classified stuff are just phenomenal. The artwork for the website, the artwork for the packages, every piece of art they seem to do just really is fantastic. And this is no different. I really like, the Regal Cobra Commander sort of design and how it looks here. It's really fascinating that they produce all these really highly detailed pieces of artwork and just use like small corners of them here and there. And, who knows, maybe it'll appear somewhere else at some point down the line. But yeah, I love this one.
Yeah, it's very, again, like there's not much going on with the Cobra Commander one, but the position and the way he's like looking down a little bit kind of really gives that piece of art even more, doesn't it? Like we're only you're only seeing a very short, like small element of it. But what we do see, there's a real kind of like ominous tone. There's a real kind of strong character pouring out of that, isn't there?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it is Cobra Commander. It's one of the ways that Classified has done a great job sort of balancing the vintage aesthetic with a more modern style. I mean, one look at this by anybody who's been a fan of G.I. Joe over the years, they can immediately identify it as Cobra Commander. But he has some kind of neat new quirks that make him unique. Absolutely.
And then obviously we have Storm Shadow, and again this design has been utilized a number of times in Operation Blackout, on the website, and now we've got him in a different pose. He's reaching for what looks like either a sword or maybe an arrow. We can't see the other thing in his hand, so if he's got the bow going on, then he's probably reaching for an arrow. But this is, again, very cool, very detailed, very dynamic. We can still see that tattoo on his left arm. You can kind of like see elements of it going on, so they're still kind of holding true to that element of the artwork, which has kind of changed in, I think Operation Blackout kind of removed it a little bit. But what do you think of that piece?
Oh, it's fantastic. And they continue to drive me nuts by showing this artwork without having an action figure to correspond to it. But maybe April 9th we'll see something. But I really love this design for Storm Shadow. I think they really did a fantastic job. Unlike a lot of other folks out there, I really love the tattoos too. I think that adds a really neat element to the character.
Yeah.
Who knows when or if we'll see this in actual action figure form. I hope it's eventually. But yeah, this artwork is really, really great. It looks fantastic. It's a great update to Storm Shadow.
I think if they did release that version, it would be so cool if they went all out on the tattoos on the left arm, if they made them really colourful and really elaborate. That would just be like so cool on a 6-inch figure. And yeah, I agree. I think the quicker we see him as an action figure, the better, I think, because it seems to be a character and a version of that character that people are really clamoring for. Like, it's almost every time I post something about that design, whether it's a new piece of artwork or a t-shirt or Operation Blackout, people always comment on it to say, why haven't we had this version yet? We need this version. We need the Baroness on a single card. We need, this figure, this figure, this figure. That version of Storm Shadow is always in that conversation.
And it's funny. I mean, it's the typical sort of fandom dichotomy where, the first time the artwork was revealed, everybody's like, oh, that Storm Shadow looks terrible. I mean, what's with the face mask? What's with the tattoos? It's garbage. And then, so now we don't have a figure for it, a year later, and everybody's like, what's going on? Where's that Storm Shadow? It's so awesome. they
Just
all want what they can't have. But
make it unreleased and then post it on eBay, Hasbro, and make thousands because people desperately want that thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I still maintain that we're going to see these. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And I think that is
obvious. Yeah.
I mean, we have very little patience for this kind of stuff. And when I say we, I mean like the not just Joe fandom, but like the communities of, fans in these different communities in general have no patience whatsoever for anything. It's almost like completely like I just don't see anyone having this trait anymore of being able to wait for things comfortably.
I know.
It just seems like, no matter what the situation, no matter what the problems that are going on outside of, the issue at hand, it's always like the first thing is like, why don't I have this in my hand? Why has this not been given to me yet? There's also been, I think last year, considering it was like the worst year ever, and kind of has grown into this year, I still think that we got so many different figure reveals, like so many, more than I think we ever really would have seen had it been rolled out normally. And then going into this year, because we haven't seen like 6 figures already, it's like everyone's going mad. And it's like, guys, relax. Like there's plenty of time to get all these characters out. And, we know that some are coming, and it's just like, I think everyone just gets so impatient to see it. It's like, I want to see it now.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this quite a bit offline, and I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, number one, obviously the world we live in right now, we're used to this immediate gratification. They have, Netflix is binging an entire series at once. So if you want to watch, season 3 of Stranger Things, you sit down on Friday and by Saturday you're done. You have that, you can soak it all in immediately. You want something on Amazon, you're a member of Prime, 2-day shipping, and you have it the next week. There isn't that mentality of, like Sergeant Slaughter, where you mail in, flag points, and you got to sit there and wait for, 2 months before the figure arrives.
6 to 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's immediate. And so there's that. And then, obviously the whole pandemic situation, which, people don't always seem able to look outside their narrow viewpoint and realize that across the world, factories, while they've been functioning, have been functioning at like 20% capacity. I mean, they're not fully staffed. So, I mean, these are places that you can't work from home. I mean, you got to be at where all the equipment is, where all the machinery is. So they've got to work with skeleton crews. And the fact that they've been able to produce anything at all is pretty amazing. Never mind distribution. I mean, there's already rumors of, container ships off the West Coast that have been sitting there for weeks and weeks and weeks waiting to dock. Because of the pandemic, there's been steel shortages, so they can't even make the containers. I mean, you name it, there are reasons why the distribution chain has been so slow and so sluggish. But people not only do they not realize that, but when you try to tell them that, they just like, it's Hasbro, they're a $1 billion corporation, they're better, they should be able to do this. And, it's $1 billion corporations all over the world have been impacted by this thing. So unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is. And you kind of have to suck it up and deal with it. And so there's that element to it. And then like we've talked about, many times as well, I mean, and we're getting into some deep territory here where the whole mentality of collecting, in my mind, is kind of about that, injection of happiness and this kind of dopamine hit when you buy something new and acquire something new. You feel like a burst of pleasure, like, I've got something new. I'm happy for however long that dopamine hit lasts. And then when these people who like G.I. Joe fans or other fans, they crave that dopamine hit, and when they don't have something they can buy to satisfy that, they kind of lash out and they get angry because, I want to be happy, and acquiring this piece of 6-inch plastic is going to make me happy, and you're telling me I can't. So I'm going to lash out and get angry. So this combination of things just really makes for, it can be a really uncomfortable situation online, because I know, again, you and I have talked about this before, where you want to go online and celebrate this stuff and be happy and enjoy what we're seeing, what we're getting, celebrate the fact that G.I. Joe is back. I mean, it is, like it or not. It's funny, we get fans who say, well, G.I. Joe's been invisible for years, and now G.I. Joe's all over the place. And those same people are like, what is this, all this licensed schlock that Hasbro's letting them make? It's like, well, this is what we've been asking for. You want to see this G.I. Joe licensed product, because there are Funko Pops collectors that don't collect action figures. There are Domes collectors that don't collect action figures, Minimates collectors. you want to capture as many of those audiences as possible, because if you can even funnel, 5 or 10% of them into supporting the brand at large, that's a good thing. So, yeah, I don't even remember what your original question is. I just went on a rant there. But,
no, that was
but
good.
yeah, the fan, it's an interesting world to be a fan these days. But I think, but yeah, I mean, I agree. It's amazing that we've seen as much as we've seen. I would say, a year ago, January, we didn't even know that G.I. Joe Classified existed. And it's been, less than 18 months since then. And not only do we not know it's existed, we've had several waves of products, online exclusives, which pisses everybody off, but at least they exist. I've got a display shelf that I'm looking at here that's got like 30 figures on it that I didn't even know were in the pipeline 18 months ago. So, I mean, it's good things. So settle down, I mean, it's enjoy what we've got. It should be celebrated, not hated.
Exactly. And I think, you said all you need to say on that. So I'm not even gonna, no, it's great. I totally agree with you as well. And I think, there's nothing in there that, I disagree with at all. I think, there's just that element of impatience, and I think, and I get it too. I'm not going to lie. Like I'm kind of I really want to see that figure. I really want to see that figure. And now that we've got this barbecue artwork, there's a mistake. I want to see barbecue, yes. But now that we've got this Major Blood artwork as well, and no action figure to kind of like show off just yet. You've seen him in Operation Blackout. You're like, it's on the cards. He's coming, but you just have to kind of be patient. And I think April the 9th is going to be focus is going to be on Snake Eyes Origins. I don't think we're going to see anything else. I think we're going to see the movie stuff is what I think we're going to see. Which, I'm telling you now, that's brilliant. Like, I'm happy to see that stuff revealed. Like, that's that's going to take a lot of the, I'd say, like the anticipation edge off for me. Like, I'm really excited to see what those figures are like. We'll be reporting on that, obviously, the moment that Joe segment ends. But in any case, Justin, let's move on, because we have got so much still to go through. And that was the best online rant you've ever done, I think, definitely. So next up in role-playing game news, senior producer of role-playing games at Renegade Game Studios, Elisa Teague, appeared on the Renegade Society radio show hosted by Amanda McKnight to discuss the company's upcoming work, including mention of Transformers and G.I. Joe role-playing games in the works. Elisa also explained that there will be a focus on creating your own character in both Joe and Transformers games, going as far as to detail choosing a character, purpose, vehicle, faction and motivation for the Transformers game specifically. This is the first mention since the announcement last year of the company getting the license to produce games and items for the brands from Hasbro. No images as yet, but I imagine we will start seeing pictures over the next few months. It's great to hear that this is still happening. Justin, are you interested to see what this is all about?
Extremely. Yeah, I mean, as I'm an author, so I'm kind of used to creating worlds and creating characters. So the avenue to have some sort of an official product that I can use to kind of create my own G.I. Joe adventures or whatever and play them out is a really, really awesome idea. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of how much further they go with it and sort of what's included. I know in some of the Power Ranger stuff, they actually have like little plastic minifigures that are involved. So we may get some of that stuff. I know, I don't play Dungeons and Dragons regularly. I have played it in the past. But I think it could be really, really fun for the brand. I know a lot of G.I. Joe fans who are D&D players. So hopefully it's kind of advanced enough to capture their attention. I know some of the stuff that Renegades does is actually compatible with D&D 5e. So I don't know if G.I. Joe will be as well or not, but lots of potential for some really fun stuff. I'm hoping that these sets come with like character sheets that you can fill out with all your code name and your specialties, and it's going to be like ordering the Steel Brigade figure back in '87 all over again. So it's
so true, neat. So true. I'm gonna make Fire Links for the first time ever. He'll be alive in the G.I. Joe universe. That's beautiful. Amazing. What's your character going to be called, by the way?
I don't know. I've been thinking of a bunch of different things. I haven't landed on anything yet, but I'll make sure that you're the first to know once I do.
Whisper.
I could. That'd be pretty awesome.
I definitely am looking forward to this one, and for similar reasons in actual fact. But like when you think about where G.I. Joe is actually like in the hands of at the moment, you've got Wizards of the Coast developing things. You've got Renegade Game Studios developing stuff. You've got multiple statues, multiple figures, multiple mini figurines. It's merchandise through the roof at the moment, and this is even before the Snake Eyes movie has landed. It's going to get bigger, isn't it? There's going to be more of this stuff before we're going to be drowning in it, aren't we?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's part of what drives me so crazy by everybody complaining about all these different licensed products. It's like, just shut up. I mean, it's good. These are good things. You want G.I. Joe to be everywhere. I mean, heavens knows these things like these domes and the Minimates. I mean, there's plenty of Marvel stuff there. Just because it exists there doesn't dilute what it is somewhere else. So enjoy the wildfire spread of G.I. Joe. It does not happen very often. So, yeah, I'm all for it. I can't wait to see all this stuff.
That's a very good point about Marvel. No one's ever moaning about the stuff that we see. Like, you go anywhere, it is everywhere. Marvel is on everything. Yeah. It's literally licensed on every single item available to purchase. And just because G.I. Joe is getting, into some of those avenues now, like, it's not diluting the brand. If anything, it's strengthening it. It's putting it out there for people to see and to be in the consciousness again. And I mean, like, there's loads of talk about those little dollar figures, and I'm like, people buy stuff from dollar stores. Like, people don't have loads of money all the time to spend on this stuff, and maybe want to buy their kid a couple of things. And guess what? They can have little G.I. Joe figurines, Exactly. Like, I had Palatoy pencil toppers as a kid, and friggin' Centurion erasers and stuff like that. And I loved that stuff as a kid.
That's something that an 8-year-old kid can save up his allowance and go into a store and buy. He's not going to do that for a $20 classified figure. He might, but probably not. But for a dollar store G.I. Joe, set of G.I. Joe figures, yeah, and maybe that 8-year-old kid falls in love with those dollar store figures and then grows up to buy other stuff, or saves up his allowance for a few weeks to get a classified figure. I mean, that's the gateway drug. That's the good stuff. You want that to be out there. Even if it doesn't appeal to your 40-year-old, mindset that these little, rubber action figures, they look like garbage or whatever. Well, that's fine. But to the 8-year-old kid who's got, a pile of quarters in his pocket, that's exactly what you want to use to draw them in, because that's what gets their attention. That's what starts it.
Absolutely. In any case, that was Renegade Game Studios, and we've gone off a tangent again. We keep doing this, but it's fine. So, yeah, can't wait for that. Obviously, when we get more images and so on and so forth, we will be, talking about that a lot. And I'm more than likely going to get involved with that, because I'm really interested to see how they package it. It's probably going to come, like, I guess, in some sort of board game format, or maybe like a book format or something. Yeah. Or I'm not really sure how it's going to be kind of put out there, but it's interesting nonetheless, and I can't wait to see what happens with that.
All right, they've already got a lot of the Power Ranger stuff kind of on their website, and I think that's probably a good gauge for maybe how this is going to be organized. So if you look at some of how they're handling some of that stuff, I think you can probably translate that a little bit into G.I. Joe. Maybe not a one-for-one, but I'm assuming it's going to be similar.
Yeah, totally. I would imagine so, absolutely. So obviously next up we have even more merchandise news, and this time Jazwares jumping on the train. I'm using train again, I always use train. Hot Topic dropped images and orders for Jazwares' brand new Series 1 blind box G.I. Joe Domes minifigures just a few days ago. It's been a while since Toy Fair 2020 when we first heard of these in the pipeline from Jazwares, including a mock-up of an Agent Jones repainted as Duke, but now we can rest easy as the pictures revealed 7 figures in the A Real American Hero style and in their original card art poses of Duke, Snake Eyes version 2, Roadblock version 1, Storm Shadow version 1, Destro and Cobra Commander with his battle helmet. There is also a chase figure of Cobra Commander in a cape and closely resembling the classified Snake Supreme deco on a gold base. The Joes have green bases and Cobra get red. Hot Topic had a special 30% off on the day, but you can get them for $7.90 per figure at this point. Links in the description. Justin, what are your thoughts on these then?
I mean, it's the same as probably the Minimates, where will I buy them? Probably not. It's a lot of the same classic vintage characters that we see in all sorts of different brands all over the place. But the fact that they're doing it, I think, is good. I mean, it's, we heard, like you said, forever ago, that Jazwares had the license to do some G.I. Joe product. There's this big conflict, were they going to do actual action figures? It's kind of funny, Jazwares does This is Jazwares that does the Fortnite figures, and people were like, maybe they're going to steal G.I. Joe from Hasbro, and now it's turned out to be kind of the other way around. But these are cool collectibles that people will grab, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if I'll get them, but I'm glad they exist. And I think it's only a good thing to kind of get that brand awareness out there.
I really like the fact that they've posed them in their card art poses. Cool. I think that's really cute. And they're cool. Not, if you look at them, there's like an exaggerated animation kind of style going on there. But I think they're really cute. And again, like, I was contemplating going all in if I could get like a case assortment in one go to kind of like, kill the chase a little bit, because I mean for $7.90 a blind box, I mean even for me, like it's better than obviously when I think Loyal Subjects were doing the blind boxes. They were like $12 to $15, and it's
they were crazy.
There's no way I'm buying those in that situation. It's going to always be, are they on eBay? Can I get them in one go? Yes, then I'll do it. But like in terms of this kind of thing, I'm still not sure. It's $7.90. I'm still not sure I can go in for that.
$7.90 is a little bit tough. I mean, for a blind box situation, if you're in a store anyway and you kind of walk by them, I've been a victim of that. Mostly with my youngest daughter. She's grown out of them a little bit, but she used to be big into the blind bag and blind box things. And every time we would go into like Target or whatever, she would want a few of them, but they were like $2.99. You can get them 2 or 3 of those blind bag things, and she'd generally get something she wanted out of them. But at $8 a pop, it's a little bit more expensive. But if you're in the Target anyway, you're buying classified figures, and you see a box of these on the store, that's what they're there for. They're impulse items. You're like, I'll just
I'll take this entire case. There we go. Yeah. I'm gonna ruin every young G.I. Joe child's dream today and just buy them all in one go.
These are mine. Get out of here, you 12-year-old little punk. These are mine.
Yeah. Here's $6. Go to the dollar store and get that set of Joes. I've got these. No, I agree with you on that one. I think I did actually have the Agent Jones Fortnite one, because Andrew, when I posted the news burst about the Jazwares, and they had that little Agent Jones kind of Duke mock-up that they'd thrown up on I think like His Tank reported it. I did the news burst, and then the next day, on Kate's desk at a boss fight, Andrew had left the Agent Jones Domes figure. Nice. So there you go, there's your Duke figure. So I've got that one, and I don't know, I might be tempted, like you say, if you're walking past and you see the odd one or two, then yeah, maybe. But I'm one of those people, I need it all in one go. I'm not going to be running around like checking weights, looking like at numbers to see if there are any number differences and stuff like that. Ain't happening. I bought the entire blind bag Micro Machines Series 1 in one go. Like I was like, I'm not messing around. I'll just get all of them, please. But again, we'll see how it goes. But I think they're really cute. And again, when this news pops up, I still get really excited. And I know, like, as soon as I'm going to post this stuff, I know the comments that are going to come flooding in. I already know it's going to happen. I know we're going to get like, what's this trash? This isn't classified. This isn't that. They need to be doing this. They need to be doing that. And it's like, okay, I get like frustration sometimes, but this isn't affecting anything. It's a different company for one. A different company are doing this, so you don't have to worry. It's not like preventing Hasbro from making classified figures. If anything's preventing Hasbro from making more classified figures, it's COVID-19. But in any case. Again, why does it keep getting to that? We've got to stop going into that arena of angst.
I know.
And I think with that, I think what would be a good idea, Justin, is to move into the movie news right now and discuss all the cool stuff that's going on there. We've got a little bit of G.I. Joe, and we've got a little bit of Transformers. So should we get into that?
Let's do it.
Images have started to emerge from the Snake Eyes reshoot sets, courtesy of the Paps at E and Extra. Nothing too revealing yet, but 2 images of Henry Golding appeared online last weekend, so I fully expect to see some more pop up very soon, but whether we get any reveals of costumes or the like is up for debate. I think Paramount Pictures and Hasbro have tightened up, so if we do see anything, it will probably follow the official reveals of the action figures on the 9th of April for Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest. Justin, cool to see some pics from the set, but we want some action shots now, don't we?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's great seeing Henry Golding kind of out there doing the filming, but yeah, I'd like to see something a little bit different than him just wearing a coat with a face shield over his face, you know.
someone posted, oh look, he's doing the book they've got in the Cobra Air Devil or something along those lines, and I was like, I think that was Joel McMullen. Shout out to Joel McMullen for that hilarious comment. But yeah, I thought that was a good shout. Also, a couple of people have noticed there's a script in his hand, and the people were like zooming in, trying to get like enhance. And unfortunately, I found out today that does not work like it does in the movies, and it was just a white page of
press like a button, and the pixels just automatically go and like are perfectly clear. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
That doesn't exist in the world, guys. But yeah, I thought that was quite funny. What do you think's on there? All of the really kind of top secret G14 classified info that we're not allowed to see.
Absolutely, yeah. The most the Serpentor secret appearances on those pages right there. Yeah.
Serpentor uncoiled.
Exactly.
Yes, I mean we all want to see that, don't we? Too many times we've seen Serpentor just coiled, like a coiled spring ready to pounce.
I want to see him uncoiled. Yeah, that brings that's all sorts of bad images in my head. I don't know. What exactly is he coiling and uncoiling?
When Pat and I did the top threes for the Valentine's Day thing, we got onto this conversation about Serpentor and Pythona, because that was one of his Valentine's top three things. One of them being when she appears in his throne room. And it just there's so many sexual undertones in that scene. One, he immediately stiffens his snake, so that's one thing, right? Two, there's the kind of thing where the camera Serpentor's eyes basically give her the up and down kind of work. There's I've imprinted my my visage on your soul and all this kind of stuff. But then the best part was her opening her sticky clam for him. So yeah, that was.
What the hell were they doing back in those days?
I don't know, but it was one hell of a scene. Anyway, I don't know why this has got nothing to do with the Henry Golding stuff in the reshoots, but. It's kind of interesting to see this stuff coming out. What do you think they're actually filming? In terms of scenes, do you think it's kind of simple stuff? Do you think it's just establishing shots? I mean, what do you think's going on here?
Well, it's interesting because they often film these reshoots based on reactions from the audience, from the test audience. So I mean, it totally depends on kind of what the feedback they got was. You would hope the feedback wasn't very significant, so it would just be kind of minor establishing shots. I think it would be pretty tough for them to do some really in-depth kind of plot-driven reshoots. I mean, you really have to bring a whole bunch of people and get a lot of different people involved. And you mentioned last time we talked about this, that Andrew Koji, talked about having to do reshoots, possibly having to go back to LA to do reshoots a while ago. And I don't think we've heard anything from him. So I don't know if he's even involved in these shoots or if it's just Henry Golding and a few other people or what. So I mean, it would almost seem to be more sort of establishing, set the scene kind of things rather than real sort of character driven or plot driven changes. But who knows? Anything's possible. The magic of Hollywood these days, you can do almost anything.
I'm really excited to see more from the sets than, like you say, just the kind of long coat, face shield kind of stuff. But it's still, in a way, exciting to see it happening. And obviously, Henry Golding did report from the set to confirm that that's what, they were on the reshoots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this has come out a little bit later. It's kind of paparazzi-ish. So, I mean, it must be a lot of this stuff also must be indoors because you'd expect the Paps to be able to get shots, nearby, long-range lenses, all that kind of stuff. So it's amazing we haven't seen anything at all coming out yet from the reshoots, isn't it?
It's been frustratingly opaque. There's nothing that we haven't seen really anything, which is it's almost unbelievable because almost anything else that any other production, you typically see some behind the scenes stuff, especially the big action pieces. But really, we haven't seen hardly anything at all.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do. And obviously, as soon as we do get some kind of nice shots of anything like that, we'll be breaking them down and analyzing them. It's funny. I feel like in kind of past situations, we've had magazine reports that have had screenshots from the movie and loads of interviews to this point. When a film is this close, We've already had that kind of stuff in like Empire magazine and all over the internet and interviews and stuff. So it's weird that we're in this kind of time period now where we're just getting nothing. So it's obviously as soon as that stuff starts kind of showing up, we'll be reporting on it, and Justin and I will be taking it to pieces as much as we can. That's if we get anything before October, but hopefully I'm expecting stuff to ramp up after this Henry Golding action figure reveal on the 9th of April.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, all along we've kind of been saying that, we expect to see more by now, but we've still got time. And meanwhile, the months are trickling away and away and away. And at this point, I mean, it's March, this is going to be due in, at this point, a little over 6 months. They're running out of time to kind of ramp up the press for it. So it does seem like we are getting to a kind of key point in time where they got to start revealing stuff soon just to kind of build up momentum, or else it's just going to kind of appear and not make a very big splash, I would think. And as much as we've seen G.I. Joe kind of bombarding pop culture these days with all the different licensed properties, their stuff with Fortnite and all that, you would think they're ramping up for some kind of big press tour. Who knows what impact COVID has had in any of this or all of it. But with 6 months to go, I would expect after that August 9th Fan Fest, we're going to start seeing and hearing a lot more about it. I really hope so anyway.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed we do. And as soon as we get anything, we're going to be reporting and ripping it to pieces, Justin and myself. Okay, well, moving on, and in slightly more substantial movie news... the long-reported and in-development seventh live-action Transformers movie will begin filming very soon. Yes, the film has been in the news for a number of months with the addition of Stephen Caple Jr. as the director, but now we are hearing that principal photography is set to start as early as July at Mel's Studios in Montreal. The Journal de Montréal also reported that shooting is planned to last 11 weeks, ending in late September, before moving to Peru for a second shoot in MTL Grande. It has been heavily implied that this film will be attempting a live-action version of the Beast Wars era, which is very cool indeed. Justin, I know you're excited about this. Tell me why.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge Beast Wars fanatic. I mean, I'm one of those people that actually likes Beast Wars better than Generation 1, mostly because of, I think, the quality of the toys and the quality of the animated series were both superior in Beast Wars, in my opinion. I mean, I was kind of an articulation junkie when I was younger, so the G1 figures, as much nostalgia as I have for them, they are kind of just like chunky, rigid pieces of plastic that weren't especially well articulated. So I always gravitated towards the action figures that had a little bit more movement to them. And Beast Wars really seemed to kind of, by the time Beast Wars came out, the technology had evolved to a point where they could make cool transformations and make posable figures. So Beast Wars it really hit me right at the right time, right in the 90s when I was kind of looking for some kind of action figure line to fall into. G.I. Joe had been gone for a couple of years at that point. And I was just starting to get, familiar with the internet, starting to figure out, what was going on with this big worldwide web back in the 90s. And Beast Wars was actually the first line I kind of latched onto back then. I went to Ben Yee's Beast Wars Transformers, BWTF.com back in those days, and really, fell in love with Beast Wars. And I've just never really stopped enjoying that part of Transformers history. I've learned to appreciate G1 a little bit more now than I did then. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see sort of what they do with Beast Wars. I was going to say I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know if I'm all that optimistic. I mean, the Transformers film franchise hasn't really endeared itself to me. It hasn't given me a whole lot of confidence that they can. Bumblebee is probably an exception, but for the most part, the films haven't really matched the lore that they are attempting to replicate. We'll see if Beast Wars turns out different. Beast Wars in my mind was kind of perfect the way it was, the way they introduced it, the way they kind of slowly ramped up and built into its links with G1. That became such an important part of what made Beast Wars awesome. If they're not doing that, which clearly they really can't, it just becomes Transformers with animals instead of cars. So, we'll see sort of how that transpires. But I'm hoping that it surprises me and ends up being really cool. I'll be there for it regardless. So, I'm definitely going to check it out. I still, like you, am stunned that there is a 7th Transformers movie. It wasn't that long ago that you wouldn't have dreamed of there being one Transformers movie, and just the international blockbuster sensation that it has become over the last 14 years or whatever is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't like the way, like, when you see Transformers 7 in development is a hint that it's like continuing that continuity,
Yeah, it's
when
weird.
in actual fact it's just this is the 7th Transformers movie. But
right.
I kind of feel like it needs to be like the new Transformers movie is made, and a lot of everywhere that was being, it was being reported on, I kept seeing Transformers 7. I'm like, it's not Transformers 7, is it?
Not.
Otherwise we'd be in trouble. But
right.
yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what kind of comes out of this. I think Stephen Caple Jr. is a pretty solid director in terms, not necessarily like, the experience for this kind of movie, but I don't think that's necessarily that important, because we've had people come in and do jobs on like Bumblebee, for example. The director hadn't really had that kind of experience before doing Bumblebee, and that was a brilliant film. He brought something to that film and gave it a bit more heart and soul. So I think Stephen Caple Jr. could probably do something, in a similar vein, where he brings something to this kind of film.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't write anybody off. It's, Michael Bay is one of the biggest name directors in existence, and he, did terrible things to the franchise. Well, I mean, not the franchise was very successful due to his involvement, but just the choices he made were an antithesis to kind of Transformers lore. So I think that kind of proves that you need more than a big name. You need somebody who brings something interesting to the table, and hopefully that's what we're going to get this time around.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for the movie news this week. Thanks, Justin, for that. Right then, Justin, let's move on then into the shout-outs. Okay, now we're into shout-outs then. As always, a big shout-out to all my family and to my wonderful wife, Kate. I love you guys to death. It always sounds really harsh when I say to death. I just love you guys a lot. That'll do. To Brian Sauer, who continues to create some amazing graphics for us. And before I continue, Justin, do you have any shout-outs this week?
I do, yeah. I want to shout out a guy named Monty Williams. He's an old friend of mine. I've known him in the Joe community for a long time, back in the Sigma 6 days. I want to shout him out because he hooked me up with this Daredevil figure. If anybody knows that I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I've got this Detolf case over here filled with Daredevil action figures. I'm a real big fan of the character. This isn't like an official Daredevil. It's a kind of a third-party 12-inch figure, but it's the only one that exists with sort of that black uniform Netflix aesthetic. And he had it for a couple of photo shoots he did, and then kindly sold it on to me afterwards. So big props to him for that. Also, I got to give props to Joel Elvis Rocker, who's kind of gotten me hooked on the Masters of the Universe Mega Constructs.
That's line. So good. So good.
We were talking earlier about that dopamine hit you get from buying new things, and I'd gone a little while without having any new things. So he got me hooked on buying some of those Mega Constructs, which are like those Lego sort of Mega Blocks type of things. And I've got a bunch of building blocks for those and for the actual little figures for those now. So shout out to him for kind of injecting that dopamine into me and finding a new thing for me to get obsessed with.
Hang on, you're shouting Joel out for injecting you. That sounds really messed up.
It's true. I can't fight it if it's true.
When did you go back for your second dose? No, I agree with you on that. I think those Mega Constructs are freaking amazing. And big shout out to Joel as well. And also, I should say to the viewers as well, Justin's such a big Daredevil fan. He goes out at night as a vigilante on the streets of Lebanon, and yeah.
That's right.
Well, the streets of not Lebanon, the country, but Lebanon, the area that he lives in.
The city, yeah. And I got to take my glasses off to put the mask on, so I'm blind anyway. So it works out pretty well.
Perfect.
I have that radar sense, though, so it gets a little clumsy. And try to jump roof to roof, and it does not work out real well.
You should definitely do a Daredevil cosplay. I think you'd look amazing in it. You should definitely do that.
I do want to actually shout out NECA Toys, too. They revealed a couple of days ago an absolutely spectacular-looking Goliath figure from the Gargoyles cartoon, the animated series from the 90s. One of the best animated series that has ever been made, and I cannot figure out why it doesn't get sort of more love and exposure from the licensed product side. We had one action figure line back then that was, typical 90s action figures. Wasn't the best, but If NECA can kind of do with Gargoyles what they're doing for, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think there's a potential for some really amazing things. And Goliath looks absolutely fantastic. And they say they've got 5 more of them that are kind of in the works. And if people buy them, I'm sure we'll see a bunch more. So I am extremely excited to see what's in store for that line. I think it could be very, very cool.
It looks incredible. Just Goliath on his own looks amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to see what else they do for that. And yeah, it's a great animated series. I've only actually ever seen it once all the way through, so I'm gonna do a rewatch anyway. But no, it was one of those top level kind of really high quality animated shows that has lasted. Like it seems to be one of those ones that just is timeless. Like loads of people still discuss it in really high regard. Similar to kind of like, is it Batman Beyond? And there's another one, isn't there, that I'm not thinking of the top of my head, but in that kind of similar vein, that's always held in high regard. So
and
Sigma 6.
And back in the no, not Sigma 6. But back, what's really crazy is, it's easy now to kind of look back and say, yeah, it was a good cartoon. But back in the 90s when it aired, it was revolutionary. You didn't see cartoons like that. And I know it's stupid to say, blood automatically equals good. That's ridiculous. But they weren't afraid to show a little bit of added maturity. I just watched the first episode again last night, and during one of the flashbacks, like a guy swings his sword at Goliath and he kind of grabs it with his palm, and there's like blood trickling down his wrist. And you didn't see that in cartoons in the 90s. And while that doesn't automatically mean it's a masterpiece, I think it was kind of a sense of sort of maturity. And it really dove deep into some pretty intricate storylines. I never knew what the Illuminati was until I watched Gargoyles, and it was kind of like, oh, that's what all those crazy people are ranting about. But it's a very high quality animated series. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus. It's probably the perfect time to check it out and get familiar with it, so you can buy all those Gargoyles figures that are going to be awesome.
Just don't buy them so that Justin can't buy them. Make sure Justin gets his first.
I'm already pre-ordered. I'm good.
Okay, get stuck in then, guys. I have to, agree on that. Gargoyles was amazing, and I probably going to get in on the figures as well myself. But anyway, I want to give a couple more shout-outs. One to Paul Aller, Chris Evanhouse, and Brittany Peer for Castlefall. We covered the one-shot issue that seemed to conclude the story in our Comics Burst in the week, and it is superb. I truly hope there is more to come from this team on Joe Comics, as there are so many more stories to be told. But that issue on its own, Brian and I just absolutely blown away by it. Fantastic stuff. Also, shout out to Hasbro Pulse for delivering on the Chaos Bringer himself. Yes, Unicron is here. What are we going to do now? He's huge and ridiculous, and it took me hours just to get the bugger on the stand. For those of you who haven't got him in hand yet or haven't opened him yet, then take heed that the instructions don't cover how to prop the planet mode up on that stand. I've included a YouTube link in the description below that tells you what you need to do in that sense, and I was messing about with it for friggin' ages the other day. Basically, there's this like little section that flips out, but it doesn't go the other way. It doesn't flip in. It flips out of the body, right? So I'm there trying to like angle this stand in, and you can imagine the weight of it. It's so heavy. So like you're kind of balancing this giant, like, it's like the same like rock or stone they use in the Highland Games, like when they're trying to lift stones onto these like pedestals.
The strongman competition, yeah.
That's what you need. You need to be hench to lift this thing, and you kind of as you put it in, the little panel that flips down doesn't flip far enough away. So a few people have encountered that it pushes that away and puts stress marks on the join of that thing. So you don't want to be doing that with this figure. So what you do is you kind of open it out a little bit and then push, rather than pull that panel down, you push it in. So it goes all the way in, and then you've got that, you close it back up, and then you slot it on the stand. Obviously the guy in the YouTube description shows you exactly how to do that. So check that out before kind of putting it into that. You can see it over my shoulder. That I'll just put my finger in his mouth. Whee! He's actually so much further away. I'm nowhere near it. I'm not even kidding. That thing is so far away. That wall, I don't know, I can't tell you how far away that is, but it is like, look, he's literally near Moonbase 2. He's that far away. Anyway, enough of that. He's amazing. I'll be transforming him soon, so I'll throw some images up of me transforming him. Just not on this episode, because it's going to take me a couple of days to do that. Yeesh. And also, finally, as we said last week, we stand with Asian and Pacific Islander communities in saying stop Asian hate, and we'll continue to do so. So follow the links in the description if you want more information or just want to do more to help. We mentioned this on the last episode. I just wanted to make it clear that it wasn't just, us saying stuff. We do want to stop this, and we don't want it to be, we're certainly not going to be associated with anything other than this campaign. So, big shout out to all of our Asian community, Pacific Islander community, and anyone that even watches us that are in that boat and have suffered this kind of hate, recently. We stand with you, should we say? And like I said on the last episode, it doesn't mean like that much coming from me, and it was Pat last episode, but that's what we just want to make that very clear, where we stand on that. Anyway, that's it for this one. And finally, to our patrons, listeners and viewers, we've had a couple more people join us recently, so again, thank you so much. We really appreciate the support. Hope you're enjoying all the extra content. Hope you're enjoying this content. Justin, I hope you enjoy making this content with me.
Love it.
Yeah, he's like,
no better way to spend a Friday afternoon.
He's like, no, I've got better things to do. My company is on fire. I need to deal with that now.
I wouldn't qualify that as a better thing. It's a different thing, but not better.
It's a more fiery thing. Anyway, Justin, mate, thank you for jumping on, mate. I really appreciate you you doing this, and it's a long one for you, and I apologise, but thank you so much anyway.
Hey, I'm the one that went on a 20-minute rant. It's on me. It's all right. It's all good.
3 separate occasions. No, I'm kidding. That's great. I'm cutting all of it. I'm just gonna. It'll be like you going, I tell you what, and then it will be like the explosion, and then we're on to the next news segment. No.
It's going to be me angrily talking about Snake Eyes movie. Yeah.
I really do hope we have lots of news to talk about next week, but maybe 4 or 5 stories, yeah? Let's not stop bogging me down with all this work to do, guys. Jeez.
No kidding.
Anyway, Jazz, we'll see. Justin, I'll see you next week, hopefully. If we've got any movie stuff, I'll jump to you, and maybe, because Pat didn't turn up this week, I'm just going to be completely out there and honest with everyone. He just let us down, and he hasn't told us why yet. Totally ghosted us.
Ghost.
So I'm going to be yelling at Pat for that. But hopefully we'll see Pat next week. See you next week, Justin. And that's it for this installment. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for watching the Full Force Weekly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-host, Justin Generals Bell. See you next time. And as always, after 3, 1, 2, 3, Full Force! Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.